But it's the not having to find the childcare and not having to worry about who's picking the kids up from school. That is the freedom that it gives you.
But if you were able to work, I'm talking about a normal person, yeah, not you that you had 2 kids and so on. The normal person who could earn even the minimum wage, which would be like what, almost £2,000 a month. Would that not be worth you saving your dignity? My
dignity was long gone way before I had this job. Like my dignity.
Also, sorry to interject, but your dignity. Listen, this is coming from somebody who's worked every job under the sun. I've been a stuntman, I've been a personal trainer, I've been a labourer, I've been a removal man, I've been a suit shop worker, I've been a waiter. I've done every job. Literally, I've tried it all. I've worked in education. I've been a parkour coach. I've been a gymnastics coach. I've done every job. You lose your dignity in fucking all of them. Hello and welcome back, guys. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Solomon Davis. I am a UK-based porn performer, professional dom, and sex psychology educator. So today we're going to be doing something slightly different. Unlike the usual videos on this channel, which are analysing the psychology of specific kinks and fetishes, today we're going to be having a look at a podcast episode and analysing the kind of conversation that takes place in this particular episode. Now, this is a podcast that has been brought to my attention by multiple people. It's a podcast that has brought on sex workers in the past, and unfortunately there is a kind of a new genre of podcasts, so to speak, manosphere podcasts, which tend to be kind of vaguely uneducated, ignorant men bringing on sex workers, and usually female sex workers, and using their platform to kind of belittle, undermine, bully them, and trying to make them look like a fool for content. Now, obviously, this time they've gone and picked a pretty worthy adversary. They've gone and picked Rebecca Goodwin. Anyone who knows me knows that Rebecca is a friend of mine and a fellow industry professional. I've worked with Rebecca on multiple occasions. She's a fantastic performer in the industry, a wonderful person, and also somebody who contributes massively back to both the community and the industry. So a lot of respect for this person. Again, personal friend. So very interesting to see how they try to handle somebody like Rebecca, because although she can definitely take a joke and can definitely make fun of herself, she's also a very well esteemed person, and certainly isn't somebody who's known for taking shit in the industry. So I'm intrigued to see kind of how that goes, because as the title dictates, supposedly she storms off during the episode. So I can imagine it probably takes quite a lot to put her in that kind of headspace. I know her personally. She's an incredibly independent, resilient woman. So we'll see how this goes. But either way, I have no doubt they're going to say something that's going to frustrate me in this video.
You are the most disrespectful man.
What? We was only joking.
Yeah. You are the fucking rich shit now.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye. Welcome back to the reality check. Today, guys, we need some help from all of you. We have been demonetized on YouTube, so we literally don't earn anything from these videos anymore. We need your support to keep this channel going, so we've got a Patreon, link down below. We are going to be putting in extra videos. We're going to be doing like some behind the scenes stuff, some videos of me and CJ just going out and, you know, causing carnage. And we're going to just be doing all different types of content on there. So if you could want to help us and want to support the channel and keep it going, make sure you click the link down below. Today we have ho number 1. What's your name?
Wow, it's Rebecca Goodwin. You just want to rip me apart, don't you? And I don't mean in the way that I'm used to.
We'll get to that, to be fair. We will get to that.
Go on, do your worst.
So tell me, why did you decide to change your minge from brown to pink using a Snapchat filter?
Because it was brown. No, because obviously.
Is there something wrong with being brown?
No, there's no. But I'm a white girl.
Oh. Yeah,
when a white girl.
Yourself with brownness.
No, when a.
Why is your minge brown? The instant ignorance and I mean I can tell that obviously the way in which these podcasts operate for the most part is you have several very, very immature young men who will just doghound the kind of the female guest with comments, try to overwhelm them with quick fire comments, try to break them down, try to get them in that headspace where they're instantly on the back foot. Just try and neg them basically, just so they're instantly on the back foot and they slip up and they panic. But again, little comments like why was your minge brown? I mean, it instantly goes to kind of highlight the lack of the basic kind of understanding of women's anatomy that these men have, which is not surprising considering one of them has an active rape allegation against them that has gone through court years ago. So do with that information as you will. I don't think these are people that have the slightest clue about female anatomy, but I guess we'll find out.
A girl has brown pussy, that means that she always wipes from back to front. And a dad never said...
I don't think it does. wait, so it's just poo then? Why did you clean up the poo rather than use a filter and just keep the poo on there?
Because it's just a stain, isn't it?
Wait, you was actually wiping back to front?
No, that was... Obviously, I'm taking a piss. Do you know anything about women? Right, okay.
Again, like... These people are fucking clueless. If you don't understand the most fundamental basics of human anatomy, don't have a fucking podcast where you bring sex workers on, because you're just going to look like a dick. You're going to embarrass yourself.
Sometimes the vagina is just a bit off-coloured and it's not bubblegum pink, and that's okay. And so back then I didn't know what I was doing, so I just used a Snapchat filter that made it a little bit more rosy and nice and cute. But then I found anal bleach.
Wait, you anal bleached your...
Oh, wait, guys, we forgot to let you know. Let's try and limit the swearing to as much as possible, because
who swore?
Pussy, anal...
That's not swearing.
That is...
We would have to bleep it out.
We have to cut it out.
Okay.
But yeah, so you found derriere... What? Bleach?
Bleach, yeah.
Okay.
Derriere.
You just...
I couldn't think of anything else. Tell me another word.
Butthole.
I don't think we'd be allowed
Rectum.
that. Yeah, rectum bleach.
That's complex inside.
Is it?
Yeah, the rectum.
Is it? Again, just showing the absolute lack of basic anatomical understanding. And this is the problem. You give people without a shred of education, without a shred of information or education or basic understanding about a platform. And of course what they're going to do is they're going to spew ignorant nonsense, because these aren't people that have good opinions. These aren't people that have educated opinions. They're just ignorant young men who have somehow managed to resonate in the echo chamber of incels and other ignorant young men. And unfortunately that gives them a platform that they can then continue to preach, a soapbox from which to preach their uneducated nonsense from. So it's unfortunate, but again, this is the age that we live in, and it gives us an opportunity to look at these people and kind of go, huh, yeah, where did it all go wrong?
This ain't a biology podcast. Come on, tell us. What do you use the bleach for?
To lighten things.
Wait, you did that on your...
Yeah,
Surely
just all
not.
over. You just
Didn't
apply
it
it like a lotion once
No,
a day
no.
until it lightens everything.
Does that not mess up your pH levels?
No.
You can't bleach your...
You can bleach anything
Your
if you
minky.
want to. You can. It's for that area. When you're bleaching your derriere, obviously you're going to get a little bit in your vulva. Right, so it's obviously vulva safe. So yeah, it's lightened it a little.
So is it finally pink now?
It's pinkish.
It's getting there.
It's getting there. It's like...
Can confirm it is pinkish.
So is it the same colour?
No, obviously not. This is dyed. My natural colour is blonde, so you can't...
So is it blonde?
Yeah.
Why don't you dye it? Do you have a strip or...
No, I'm just bald.
Yeah, good. That's the best way.
Yeah,
What's going on
I'm gonna
recently
say-
with like porn stars having hairy minges?
Do you want to know? They're grown women. That's what's going on with that.
Yeah,
you want a prepubescent child? And absolutely
Well, obviously
fine.
not, but
I'm
why
just
don't they wax
saying.
anymore? No, because they used to be bald.
Because women are in a revolution right now, and women are tired of men saying, shave that pussy, shave that pussy.
And again, the mock snoring in response goes to show this man doesn't give a shit. Doesn't have the slightest understanding. For him, again, it's about his his personal preferences, which is okay. It's normal to have personal preferences. If you have a personal preference for unshaved vagina, cool, that's absolutely fine. But to expect it from people on a societal level, that is where the kind of line is drawn. And the fact that his response to her kind of educating them and going, look, you've asked a question, you've asked what is it with female performers not shaving as much as they used to, or perhaps not being as waxed as they used to be in years prior in the industry. She's now gone to answer the question with the truth, which is that people are kind of waking up and going, you know what, if I want to shave, I'll shave, but I don't have to. It's not down to societal norms to dictate how one should kind of dress themselves or represent themselves, and how they identify. And so a lot of people are choosing not to shave, not to wax, not to meet those kind of societal requirements, and that's okay. That's totally normal. Now, instead of listening to what she's saying while she answers the questions that they have asked, he's just mock snoring, which again goes to show the unwillingness to be even remotely receptive to actual education. Again, that's not what they're on this podcast for. They're not here to actually find anything out. Problem is, podcasts have the capability to be incredibly useful because you're giving a platform to people who can then educate, who can then inform, who can enlighten you to the kind of inner workings and elements of their industry that you perhaps might not have a gateway into. People like Rebecca Goodwin offer a very useful insight into how in this case, single mum can become a multi-millionaire, an incredibly successful multi-millionaire, multi-business entrepreneur, and go into kind of philanthropy with some of the stuff that she does with the affordable housing schemes, which I'll get onto in a minute. But yeah, it's you can have a platform where somebody like that can come and share really useful information that is going to actually benefit people, information that's actually going to help people that might be in a similar situation. And instead of using your platform as a place to kind of allow that person to be useful, you're just there to ask questions and then pretend to snore when they try to answer them, because again, you're not interested in the education. These people are not interested in the answers. They're just interested in getting a quick click and having a platform to try to preach their ignorance from. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, this could be a useful place. I mean, the podcast isn't that big. It's got 24,000 followers. It's okay, fairly sized. But it's still a platform, and that could be a beneficial platform to inform people, educate people on how to better themselves, how to do something that she has done and become a successful business person. But no, instead it's just a soapbox for them to preach their ignorance from and to show us just how uneducated they are, which is fine by us.
Women want to be able to have hair, and then men will say, isn't that unhygienic? And I'll say, show me your fucking armpits, and you'll have hair there, right?
So why don't you have hairy armpits then?
Because I don't personally want them. That's my preference. But if a woman did, it wouldn't mean that it's more unhygienic than a man to
I never
have
said it's
them.
unhygienic, it's just unattractive.
Yeah, no. But why is it unattractive?
Yep.
Now again, unattractive, that is a personal preference. It might be unattractive to him, absolutely. It's not unattractive to everybody. Body hair is an interesting one. Again, for me, I can only talk from my own personal preferences. I don't love it. I don't like body hair on myself. But again, if somebody has it, it's their preference. I'm not going to be put off by it. I think if you're put off by somebody having a little bit of body hair, okay, a bit picky. But at the end of the day, it's your prerogative to have whatever preferences that you have. So at the end of the day, if you don't want to sleep with somebody who has a little bit of body hair, that's absolutely fine. That is your prerogative to do so, or not to do so in this case. But to impose that on other people and to expect people to fit a specific kind of societal norm just for your preferences, that's where I draw the line.
Okay, so you're saying this, but you've got a bald minge, right?
Yeah.
So you obviously think it's
but
unattractive.
that's because it itches me.
Okay,
Alright?
so you think-
That's the reason.
so you think
It's
a
nothing
hairy
to do
minge-
whether... No, I don't think a hairy minge is unattractive. I think it's
don't?
very attractive, yeah.
You think it's
I
very
love
attractive?
a woman...
What's
you
attractive
alright?
about it?
I'm alright, yeah.
No,
but
no, no,
the
no,
only
no.
people...
Again, instantly the riled upness, the fact that they're instantly like, it's so counterintuitive, it's so counterintuitive to their fundamental core belief system that it's crazy. You can see the moment these men have their kind of understanding of the world challenged, in this case, their preferences challenged, they have a meltdown. This man's response is like, no, you're right. Like, their response is so visceral, because again, they are incapable of viewing life outside of the paradigm of their own kind of rigid belief system, which is that women have to be a certain way for them. Fair enough. Okay, if you have preferences, that's cool. We've already established that preferences are absolutely fine. But to have such a visceral response to somebody else's preferences because they differ from your own is mind-blowing, because of course people are going to have different preferences because we're not all carbon copies of one another. So the fact that they have such a visceral response to the idea that she has a preference that might be different to theirs is concerning.
On this planet that naturally have bald pussies and bald armpits are kids.
Can we not get into that?
No, because they don't like it when you throw the facts out there.
That's ridiculous.
It's not.
Of course
It's the truth.
ridiculous.
Right, it's okay for you to
Hair
have
is
a
not
preference.
attractive, though.
It's not.
For sure.
Say that again with that mouth with hair all around it, please.
Okay, beards are attractive.
Oh,
Different for a man.
And there we go, it's different for a man. It's one of those things where I feel like, so my personal opinion on this is that everyone just do what the fuck they want to do with their body. Body autonomy matters. I don't give a shit what you do with your body. You don't have any right to have a say in what I do with mine. If I want to tattoo myself, I will tattoo myself. If I want to pierce myself, I'll pierce myself. If I want to shave my beard, grow my beard, shave my armpits, grow my armpit hair, who fucking cares? It's my prerogative because it is my body, and therefore nobody else gets a say in that. Vice versa, I can have a preference, but I do not get a say in what anyone else does with their body. It's their body, they do whatever the fuck they want with it. So, yeah, no, to have that kind of response is, yeah.
Okay, it's not different for a man.
Of course it is.
Yeah, because of society's standards, because of what you
So
demand.
you're actually looking at me and telling me you only shave because it's itchy.
It's itchy,
So
yeah,
you
it
shave your
itches me, and
armpits
it's
and that.
yeah,
and
I
your
shave
legs,
everything.
and
But
your
the problem
legs.
is, right? If you have a partner, you have a preference. It is fine. It is fine for a man to have a preference. You want a bald pussy? I get that, no problem. But when the issue starts is when men start saying all women should be shaved. That's like saying hair doesn't belong on women,
But that's
right? And I
our
am telling
preference,
you,
right?
yeah, your preference for a woman.
And there it is. It was our preference, right? You don't get ownership of an entire demographic because it is your individual preference. And there's the problem. It might be your individual preference, absolutely fine. You just date people who have shaved vaginas. Cool. Ace, fantastic. Everyone's a winner. But to go, everyone should because it's my preference. No, that's a glaring misunderstanding of boundaries, body autonomy, and consent.
Not for me, not for a porn star, not for someone you are never going to fuck in your life. That is what we call none of your fucking business.
Okay, so when women say all men should be 6 foot plus,
I don't say that.
No, but...
No, not all men should be. They're saying...
But notice how the moment he tries bringing an argument, he creates a hypothetical argument that she hasn't said. She's basing her argument off of stuff that they have actively said, both previously and on the podcast that she is on. She's basing her argument off of actual factual stuff that has been said in the episode, in the 6 minutes that she's been live. Notice how his argument is he creates a hypothetical that has nothing to do with... No one's brought up height. She's never brought up height. I know Rebecca very well. Height isn't something that bothers her. She shot at me multiple times. I'm 5 foot fucking nothing. My point being, he's brought up an argument that has no relevance to the conversation whatsoever. That has no relevance to anything there's a discussion, because he realises that if he brings up something that is relevant, he's not going to have a leg to stand on. So the only way he can argue his point is to create a hypothetical that has nothing to do with anything that she has said and go, okay, well, look, if this was your belief, then you'd be wrong, right? And she's going, well, it's not my belief, so it's irrelevant. You see what I mean? By creating a false narrative that has nothing to do with her and trying to artificially impose it on her in order to then try to trip her up with a belief that she fundamentally doesn't agree with. She's just said herself, and I'm sure she'll say again, that it's a belief that she fundamentally doesn't agree with, but he's trying to impose that on her to make it appear as if he has a point that he can argue.
Person that we
but
date.
that's the societal norm, right?
No, the person that
All
you
men
date.
need to be 6 foot plus or they're short, yeah?
Well, no,
Do we
I
not do
wouldn't say
that to men? And you know what's mad? Men can't even change that. Women can shave their pussies. Some men are below 6 foot. Most...
But this is what I mean, again, like, height was never a part of the equation. Height was never, and I wonder how tall this man is, because this seems like an argument that a shorter man would make, spoken as a shorter man. But no, it's again, you can see how he's artificially imposing an argument that has no relevance to the conversation, but artificially imposing it into the conversation, injecting it into the conversation in an attempt to have a leg to stand on when arguing with her. She's not agreeing that height is a demographic one should be judged on. In fact, she's countering that and saying that she disagrees with that as a demographic by which to judge people, by as a gauge by which to judge people. And so yeah, it's such a non-argument.
Are below 6 foot. Imagine how they feel.
There's a lot of women out there that
you should start a
prefer
trend.
a short
Men are kings.
And my man's a short man.
You got a man?
He's a short. I've got a man. I've got a few men.
Oh, you got a few men, do
No,
you?
of course I have. Yeah.
And they're all below 6 foot.
Yeah, they are. He's exactly the same height as me. Exactly the same.
How tall's that?
5'8".
Do you know what? Going back to the hairy ninjas, your opinion would hold a lot more weight if you didn't shave everything on your body.
But that's a preference. Again, it's a preference. Yeah, when men say that is unattractive on a woman for you to have hair, right? That is your preference. So you would go for somebody that doesn't have a hairy pussy. Now that is fine. But when you are dictating and saying all women that don't shave their pussy are unattractive, all women should shave their armpits, that is when, I hate to say this, but it is crossing the line of paedophilia.
What are you talking
Because
about?
And of course they have a meltdown to this because they understand the basics. Or they probably do understand it. I don't know, these people, I wouldn't be surprised either way. But again, the argument that Rebecca is making here is that if the trend in modern society for the kind of societal expectations of what is a attractive woman, at least within the online sphere for the most part, especially within the kind of manosphere podcast community, but the kind of online expectation for a woman is petite, small, short, shaved, no body hair. And again, all of these things are kind of innocent, submissive, you're their first partner. These are all factors that you hear these people talking about, wanting an inexperienced young woman, a vulnerable and inexperienced young woman. All of these things are factors that you attribute to children, not to adults. And so the argument that she's making is, you guys are pinning men in general, in this case, again, not all men, but men in this case are pinning their type as being these young, vulnerable, innocent, hairless, easily impressionable young women. And you see it with the way in which they respond to sex workers, the way in which they respond to women who are promiscuous. They respond with such aversion to promiscuous women. Again, that is indicative of somebody who would prefer to have a woman with less of a body count and therefore less experience. Again, all of these things are attributing factors that when you look at denominations of which demographic is going to fit into hairless, innocent, submissive, impressionable, small, petite, those denominations, what age demographic fits that the best? Is it adult women or is it children? It's children. And so that is the argument that Rebecca is making. That's not to say that every person that likes a shaved vagina is a nonce. Of course not. But the societal kind of expectation for what society deems as an attractive woman is veering to look at people who appear to be younger than they are. And that is a trend that is noticeable across society in the West. And it's something that's being studied, unfortunately. So it's an interesting point that she makes. And again, that's not to say that everybody who's attracted to shaved or waxed bodies is a nonce, not by any means. I think preference is absolutely fine. Preference is very normal. But when your type specifically ticks all of those boxes, you've got to ask why.
How are you saying that it's the same as paedophilia? It's got nothing to do with paedophilia.
What is the difference between a child and a woman?
It's a child.
Puberty.
Yes, I know, but
puberty.
listen. No, the difference.
Yes, puberty.
Breasts, widened hips.
Puberty. It's puberty.
No, it's not.
It just comes
Maturity,
natural. And it's
mental-
fine. It's fine for men to say, I want a woman that shaves a pussy, but when you're saying all women are disgusting if they don't, they're unhygienic, it's not attractive, that is when you are projecting on the whole of womankind, saying that should be how you want it. But
it's
you
not
are
attractive.
basically saying
Puberty
should have never have happened.
But it's not attractive. Again, completely subjective opinion being projected as being objective truth. And I'm sure that sentence would probably go over this man's head because, again, as you've seen with his podcast, these aren't educated, intelligent people. They simply aren't. I mean, you can see it from the way that they're processing the words and their kind of responses to stuff. These aren't informed, educated people. They're not intelligent people either. I'd be willing to bet money. That's why they run a podcast where they just insult their guests, I guess. But you can see the ignorance there, that it's not attractive. It's not, I perceive it. And you can see they've got an inability to perceive the world through anybody else's eyes but their own. Life only exists through the paradigm of their lens, through the lens of their reality. There's no ability to kind of look at the fact that there is an objective truth and there are subjective truths. And unfortunately, you can tell from this conversation alone that especially this man doesn't have the ability to tell the difference between subjective preference and objective truth.
Women.
What? No,
That's what you're saying.
You're saying
It is.
okay. So you're saying the only difference between a child and a grown woman is hair.
It's puberty.
it's
It's
not.
puberty.
Wait.
You're changing what I'm saying. The difference is they've hit puberty or they haven't hit puberty. For a man to say any woman that has hair is basically you saying, I am against puberty.
So
it's not.
So wait. You like to attract paedophilic men because
No, I don't
you're
attract
shaving everything.
paedophilic men.
So
Do
you're
you know,
shaving
I'll
everything
tell
because
you
you want to be a
something.
child,
No.
because you want your man
Yeah.
to fancy you as a child.
I shave
Is that the reason?
I wouldn't expect
According to
every
your
single,
knowledge,
no,
your
but again, it's
scenario,
preference. It's preference.
your
If I
preference is to be a
said,
paedophile.
I want every.
And again, you can see his only response. He doesn't have a tangible, feasible, logical or reasonable response. That rhymes. Response. He doesn't have any kind of feasible, tangible response to the argument. So it's just to go, "Hey, you're a paedophile." It's again, it's so indicative of a lack of education and a lack of intellect. It's laughable.
Man on the planet to have absolutely no hair on their body whatsoever.
That's your
be
preference.
Thin and dainty and cute. This is men's
now
preference.
you're adding that.
But this is men. Tell me, do you prefer a petite woman or a BBW?
No, but what are you talking about?
He prefers a BBW.
What are you talking about?
That's the difference between a woman and a child is puberty.
I understand. If I like,
and if you are mad
listen
at
to me.
every woman
Hold
that
on.
has hair, you are mad at
No,
puberty.
I'm not.
It is.
Listen
It
to me.
is.
If I preferred short women with no boobs, no bum, thin hips, and bald pussies, yeah, fair enough. But I'm not talking about
But
that.
that is the societal standard.
No, it's not.
It is. You've
I
told
don't-
me yourself. Bald pussies, no
Yes,
hair.
that's it. The only difference between a woman with a hairy pussy and a bald pussy is preference, not
Yeah,
puberty.
that's what I'm saying. So
That-
it's okay to have a preference, but when you're projecting that on all of women, saying all women that have hair
It is a
are
societal norm
unattractive,
for
that
girls
is
to
hating
shave
on
their hair.
puberty.
It's
No,
so-
it's not. It's not.
Of course it is.
But
You
it's
do it.
not anymore. You
How
said
are you
at the,
saying
you
it's not?
said
How can I
at the
take your
beginning.
opinion
You said
seriously?
at the
You
beginning
do
of this
it.
podcast,
You're
why
saying
are
that you've got a
more porn
bald pussy,
stars
you've got no
having
hair on your
hairy
legs,
pussies?
you've got no hair
Why?
on your
Because
armpits,
we are
and you're trying
fighting
to tell
back.
me. So anyway, how does your boyfriend feel about you doing corn?
Well, I met my boyfriend a year ago, and I have been doing corn for 5 years now. So obviously, it was common knowledge that that was the industry that I'm in. So we don't really talk about it. I'm not like, hey babe, I've had the best day at work. It's been fucking fantastic. We sort of just don't really speak about me getting raw dogged by multiple men.
So he doesn't like it?
No, I'd say he doesn't. No.
How did you meet him then?
In a nightclub.
Okay, did you tell him what you did straight away or?
Yeah. Well, he recognised me from doing what I do, or from TikTok, I'd
He was
say.
a fan.
Yeah.
So he's probably bust one out to you before.
Wait, so he doesn't like you doing it, but he was a fan himself?
Yeah, well, that's how most men are. I've been like on a few dates and stuff. I actually dated a guy that is in the industry himself, and like 3 dates in, he turned around to me and said, I don't like what you're doing. But
You get this for both guys and girls, by the way. It's definitely not just a male thing. I think probably guys might be slightly worse for it, just because, for the most part, guys love the fantasy of dating a porn star. Although girls do as well. I get it fairly frequently, where somebody will love the idea of dating me because of my work within the porn industry. They love the idea of dating a porn star, until we start dating and they suddenly realise that I still have to do porn. And it's like, oh, fuck, I didn't expect that to be a part of the relationship. But of course it is, because my job is a part of my life. Part of my identity, it's part of who I am. And it's the exact same for female performers. Unfortunately, there's a lot of guys out there who love the idea of being with one of these people because, again, it's a porn star. You're like, oh, I'd love to date a porn star. But then you realise that they have to continue filming porn. And that's when it becomes a problem. And you get it even within the industry. I've dated people in the industry who also do this job who have a problem with me doing porn. And it's like, it's very difficult to navigate that. I'd like to say it's easy if you date performers rather than dating people in normal lines of work, but again, even then, even some performance can be difficult. It's a tough one.
He's a guy that's, you know, working on OnlyFans, so he's catering to gay men. So he will go and get his dick sucked and wanked off by men, but would feel very uncomfortable when I did the same thing. So I ghosted him.
So do you ever stop, like, what you're doing?
Would I fuck? The day that a man comes up to me and is worth more than 100 grand a month is the day that I'll stop doing it. And I
Is
can
that how much
tell
you
you
make?
now, just over, yeah.
Over 100 grand a month?
Yeah.
Does your boyfriend watch your new content?
He doesn't watch anything that I do. He's blocked me on all social media.
What are you doing with that money?
It goes into property, so I'm doing the affordable housing scheme, which is where I buy property outright, usually like 2-bedroom terrace, and we rent them out, we being me and my business partner, we rent them out to people that are low-income families for prices like £450 a month for a 2-bed terrace house. So yeah, it's like, obviously I bought the houses anyway, so it's not completely selfless because all these properties will belong
Yeah, but
to
the
my
government
kids.
subsidise you, right?
No, not yet. We want to turn it into a charity so that it's tax-free, but we're not at that point. I don't get anything.
So how much?
So again, this is fantastic. It's something I've spoken about publicly before. One of the kind of biggest contributions that Rebecca has given back to the community is that she has this affordable housing kind of project in the works where she buys properties and she rents those properties for dirt cheap back to young families or people who are in need of affordable housing for very respectful prices. And yeah, no, so it's absolutely amazing. And again, this is the thing, you have somebody on this podcast who is actually doing stuff for the people, who's actually contributing to society, to the people that are in need. I know every Christmas that comes up, she'll put up in her story asking parents what their kids want or need for Christmas, and she'll spend a small fortune making sure that a bunch of complete strangers have presents to give to their children. And this is what I mean, this is a person that contributes far more than just to the porn industry. Somebody that contributes massively to the working class, to her people. And it's a shame to see somebody being given a platform where they could use that platform to elevate the positive work that they're doing. They could use that platform to promote the positive contributions that they're making and to show that sex workers aren't just hoes and online personalities. They aren't just these hedonists that create content online. They actually contribute to society and actually contribute back to the working class, back to the people that, well, are often our roots, where we are from, the place that we originate from. And it's a shame that instead of this podcast being a place where people can be educated to that and become aware of that, it's just a place for ignorant men to share ignorant opinions.
Buy a 2-bed house for?
85,000.
Wait, where are you getting these from?
Chesterfield.
Scotland
So
or
the house that I'm in now,
Chester, yeah.
Chesterfield. The house I'm in now is going to be one of the rental properties. I'm waiting to buy a farm and I'm moving out of it. That's 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, three-story house, 2 driveway. That was 230,000.
It's cheap.
And what's that?
Very cheap up north.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
completely
That house in,
different
like, Manchester
prices.
for like 60 grand, 50 grand.
Yeah, I've got lots of properties that are just like on the mark of 70 to 85,000.
You can't get nothing for that here.
No. But obviously they pay themselves as well when you've got the tenants in. But like I said, it is all like a portfolio to pass down to my 2 kids.
You have 2 kids?
I do, yeah, 2 girls.
What are they? How old are they?
One is 12 and one is 6.
Do they know what you do?
My 12-year-old knows what I do. She got told in Karen's diner.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Imagine that went down well.
Yeah, we went in there and they announced on the microphone that a porn star was in the building, so that's how she found out. But she's very, very popular in school. I know a lot of people are like, oh, she's not going to get bullied. When I pull up in that Porsche, everybody wants to be her friend, which is a bit wrong, but yeah, she's not been bullied yet, so she doesn't mind. I think if I had 2 boys,
Yeah.
it would be a very
Yeah, it
different
would.
story.
Yeah, definitely. I
What
agree.
did Karen's Diner say to your daughter?
They just announced on the tannoy as I walked in that there was a porn star because they recognised me.
Okay.
And then my daughter went, Mom, that's a porn star. So just telling a 12-year-old that is quite hard, but they've already had sex education at that point, so it's...
At what age would you want your daughter to know about kind of what you're doing?
Like I said, she'd already would want. I would never, ever, ever want to lie to them. I would always tell them the truth. Obviously, I've got a 6-year-old as well. But a lot of people are under the impression that I'm making out that I'm working in Tesco's, and one day they're gonna go, "Mum, that's not true. You're a fucking whore." But no, they're always gonna know from it's sort of normalised, like that I'm in the industry that I'm in. Obviously, I'm not gonna say this is what I do. Look, but they're gonna know along the lines of lingerie modelling. Let's say.
Honesty is always the best policy, especially when it comes down to, I think, raising kids. Again, it's not an easy conversation to have. It's not a simple or necessarily a comfortable conversation to have, but it's better that they know, at least within reason, at least within what is comfortable for them to know, within the parameters of what is appropriate for them to know. I think that's always the best way to do it, because they're going to find out one way or another. It's better that they find out from their parents than from somebody showing them a video or telling them at school. So I think that's definitely the best way of going about it. I've got a lot of respect for that.
And what if your daughter wanted to go into the same industry?
Obviously, as long as she was the correct age, then I'd support her. Anything that makes her happy, I'll support her with 100%.
Really?
Yeah,
Like, you being in the
absolutely.
industry, would you really want your daughter to do that?
Yeah, you know what? This industry is as bad as people may make it sound. You have to remember that I own the porn company. I can understand people not wanting to do it when other people like Bang Bros or Pornhub, because with those professionals, you turn up, you get paid one sum of money, and then they can use and monetize that video over and over again, and you have no rights to the video whatsoever. So whereas I am the owner of my own porn company, which is Becky Mill, and obviously I choose the talent that I work with, I'm not getting paid one lump sum, I'm getting paid continuously. It's a safe environment, and yeah, I've got the control.
Spot on. So yeah, comparing content creation to mainstream porn. So obviously I do both, so I can quite freely speak to this subject. When you work for mainstream porn companies such as Brazzers, who I work for fairly frequently, Digital Playground, Bang Bros, whatever, you turn up on a day, you film your scene or your scenes, and you're paid your rate for that particular scene. So say your rate might be, I don't know, £500 per boy-girl scene, so for that one scene. And obviously your rate might change depending on what the scene involves. Pardon me, but we'll use the example of if your rate was £500 for just a boy-girl scene. You turn up, you film that scene, you get 500 quid for that scene, you go home. You might do 2 scenes in a day, you get £1,000, you go home. They then sell that scene and monetize it and make whatever profit they make off of it. You don't make a penny more than you did on that day. Now, great for instant gratification because you get a nice lump sum. I turn up, I film, get £500, I leave. Cool. Easy day in the office. Nice and simple, nice and easy. The problem with that is, obviously, you don't get any more pay beyond that point. Instant gratification is very nice. It's nice to go home with a paycheck that day, but they might make 5, 10, 15, 20 grand off that video. You've made 500. That's just the way that the industry works. Now, in comparison to that, you have content creation. Content creation, such as what Rebecca here is talking about, you create the video, you put in all the money that goes into the production side of stuff, you hire the videographer, you do the editing, you do the production side of stuff, and then you sell the video. So you end up putting in a lot more money. It's much more of an investment, and you might not see any money back from it. It is a risk every time you do it, because people might just not buy the scene. I've done scenes that I've spent like hundreds of pounds on, and fucking no one's bought it. It's just sat there for like 2 years, unbought, and I've made £700 loss on that video. And that just happens sometimes. But you've got to hope that enough people are interested that you end up making that money back over time. It might be that you make a scene. For example, if I'm shooting for Brazzers and I turn up and I do a scene and I make £500, £1,000, whatever. Now, if I do a scene for content creation for OF, for example, I might not make any money off of that video for a year. I might not make any money off that video for 2 years. But if people start to buy it 2 years down the line, I might make thousands off of it over the next... Car alarm. I might make thousands off that video over the next 5 years. And so it's one of those things where it's never instant gratification, but over the long run, you usually make more money. Just how the industry works.
If you weren't earning the same amount of money you were earning, say you were earning £1,000 a month,
Yeah.
how would you then feel about what
Really,
you were
really
doing?
good, because the main thing about OnlyFans is not the money, it's the freedom. Like, before I worked in
You ain't got
Debenhams...
no freedom at £1,000 a month.
You have. Before I worked at Debenhams Cafe, right? I've got 2 kids, remember that. I couldn't afford childcare, so I'm staying at home with OnlyFans.
At £1,000 a month.
That is an average job.
No
it's
way.
Yeah, it was.
Pretty certain the average UK wage is 13 grand a year. I think it's the average UK salary, I believe. I have to double check that, but if that is the case, then that is £1 grand a month, basically.
For me,
You're
I was...
probably making so much money now you forgot what it's like being
No,
down
I was
there.
working at Debenhams Cafe and I was working part-time, so I'd get £475 a month plus working tax credits. I've got kids, so my money would always be...
Would always
be...
No, it's not.
Is it not?
No,
Yeah,
wages is the same. All throughout, the minimum wage is about £11.50, right?
Depends where you live, mate.
I've lived in
No, it
poverty.
doesn't.
I lived...
In England, the minimum wage is £11.50.
You get paid more in certain
Yeah, but
places.
the prices down there are a
What
lot
do you mean?
lower.
There's a minimum wage throughout the country.
There's a national minimum wage.
Yeah.
And there's also, you get paid more for being in certain places. People in London get paid more than people
No,
outside.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm saying the bare minimum is the minimum
The
wage.
national one,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's £11.50. If you,
Yeah, but that's no guarantee for hours. Again, these guys, it blows my mind that these people have made it this far in life. There is a national minimum wage, which is the national minimum you're allowed to be paid per hour. Okay, which is whatever, he might be right, 11.50, whatever it is. I know it's changed all the time, but that doesn't guarantee you're going to earn a certain number of hours per month. That doesn't guarantee you a certain number of hours per year. Therefore, it doesn't guarantee you're making a certain amount of money. Yeah, you're making £11.50 or whatever it is. For the sake of the argument, you're making £11.50 an hour. You're not guaranteed more than 10 hours a week, so it's no guarantee of any amount of money.
what's that? You should have at least £450 a week. So how are you getting £450 a month?
But
440.
I have children, so anything that if I earned £1,000 off OnlyFans, I would get that topped up by Universal Credit to make sure that I have a full-time working job. So I was earning less than £1,000 a month before OnlyFans. I was earning £475 a month, but I got my rent paid for me, my council tax.
How are you
paid
getting
for me.
£475 a month?
By
How many
working
hours
part-
were you working?
16 hours a week, part-time in Debenhams Cafe.
Right, okay. So you
so-
were working less hours.
I worked less
That is how part-time works.
hours, but obviously I got the money topped up by the government, so because I have kids. So if I earned £1,000 a month from OnlyFans, I wouldn't have to find the childcare. Okay, I'd be making more than I made at Debenhams, and I'd get my money topped up by the government. So yeah, I would still do it. But it's the not having to find the childcare and not having to worry about who's picking the kids up from school. That is the freedom that it gives you.
But if you were able to work, I'm talking about a normal person, yeah, not you that you had 2 kids and so on. The normal person who could earn even the minimum wage, which would be like almost £2,000 a month. Would that not be worth you saving your dignity?
My dignity was long gone way before I had this job. Like my dignity.
Also, sorry to interject, but your dignity. Listen, this is coming from somebody who's worked every job under the sun. I've been a stuntman, I've been a personal trainer, I've been a labourer, I've been a removal man, I've been a suit shop worker, I've been a waiter. I've done every job. Literally, I've tried it all. I've worked in education. I've been a parkour coach. I've been a gymnastics coach. I've done every job. You lose your dignity in fucking all of them. Like I've done removal jobs where I'm carrying like granite troughs filled with manure, just covered in animal shit for fucking minimum wage for 16 hours a day, carrying rich people's furniture up 40 flights of stairs whilst they sneer at you and smoke cigarettes on the balcony. Like, talk about dignity. Now you don't have a shred of dignity when you're doing those jobs half the time, and that's regular work. Everyone sacrifices their dignity. Every single person sacrifices their dignity and to the degree their health. They sell their bodies for every job. Try being a labourer and not selling your body. Try being a labourer and having days where you don't feel degraded. Like, it's the thing. Every job requires you to sell your time and your body and your means and often your dignity. Ask any office worker whether they've had a conversation with their boss where they felt undignified, where they felt belittled or spoken down to, or felt bullied. Like, talk about dignity in the workplace. At least doing this job, you have autonomy, you have ownership over your body, you have empowerment over the way in which you are depicted. You choose to depict yourself that way, because that way, nobody else can depict you that way. You're doing it on your own accord. You're taking the power away from the people that would take it away from you. And if anything, I'd argue that's far more dignified. And here's the thing, I've got nothing against working regular jobs. Absolutely nothing against it. I've worked regular jobs my entire fucking life. I worked as a personal trainer and a removal man whilst I worked as a porn star. Okay, so and a waiter whilst I worked as a porn star. I've done all of these jobs whilst also doing porn. I've done both. Okay, I have nothing against working these kind of generic regular jobs, because everyone does them. They are absolutely fundamental to the functioning of society. But to say that they are completely dignified is a lie, is a fundamental lie, because anybody that has ever done any menial mundane job ever knows how undignifying it can be, knows how humiliating it can be, how embarrassing, how degrading it can be. So yeah, it's ridiculous to try and make this argument and claim that being naked online is any more or less dignified.
He was robbed of me when I was 4 years old. I'm reclaiming everything that was taken from me, okay? Everything.
How are you reclaiming it by doing OnlyFans?
Because men used my body, and now I'm using my body to reclaim what was taken from me. My dignity was stolen as a child. I was raped as a child. I was groomed as a child. Like, there's no dignity there. Obviously, it's common knowledge that if people were, groomed or raped as a child, then they are more hypersexual as an adult. I'm going to use that to monetize from every single person that has ever taken from me, and I think I've done that pretty well.
So yeah, the argument she's making, the one thing I'll argue there is you tend to go one of two ways. So people who are the victims of some kind of sexual trauma in general, but especially sexual trauma, it tends to manifest in one of two ways. And obviously there is a variety of outliers. It can go down a different route. This isn't a broad stroke. This doesn't represent every person at all. So I want to say that first and foremost. But most people who experience that kind of experience, they tend to fall into one of two brackets when it comes down to the recovery process. They often become either kind of hypersexual, or they become sexually reclusive. So some people will become sexually reclusive, they'll close off, they'll withdraw from sex. Sex becomes the last thing that they'd want to do. It becomes something that becomes quite a sticking point. Often it's something that takes a lot of work to then be able to build back up to be able to enjoy again. I know a lot of people who have become sexually reclusive as a result of trauma, who then years down the line, after years and years of therapy, decades sometimes of therapy, have reached out to me as a professional dom and have gone, hey look, I'd like to start exploring sexuality and kind of sexual identity again within the safety and the parameter of hiring a professional within the industry. And so you can become sexually reclusive. The alternative to that is becoming hypersexual. Hypersexuality is often a response to sexual trauma, whereby the body goes, well, this was taken from me, I'm going to do it on my own terms. I'm going to do it a lot on my own terms, and I'm going to reclaim it. Like, I'm not a slut because this happened to me, I'm a slut because I did this on my own accord. And that's the logic. No one's a slut for either of those things, by the way. But that is the justification that works with hypersexuality, and it's why you'll see people who are the victims or survivors of sexual assault quite often going into jobs that are hypersexual, such as sex work, such as porn, such as having strings of kind of long short-term relationships, multiple short-term relationships, becoming extra promiscuous. These are all responses to trauma, whereby the person goes, look, I need to reclaim this thing that was taken, I'm going to do it a lot on my own terms, and therefore I have ownership over it. And this is what Rebecca's saying here. She's saying that by weaponizing her sexuality, something that was taken away from her, something that was obviously imposed upon her from a young age, unfortunately, her response to that has been to go, look, this is something that was taken from me. I'm now going to use it as fuel. I'm going to monetize my sexuality, and I'm going to make a fortune taking advantage of the men that would have taken advantage of me. And so, although it's symbolic of taking advantage of those people that took advantage of her, she's obviously not actually doing back to the perpetrators. It's obviously symbolic, but it's incredibly empowering. It's incredibly empowering to go, look, this is something that was very traumatic for me. Now it's my job. Now I make money. Now I'm a multi-millionaire because of it. It's incredibly empowering. And so I think it's a great point that she's put forward, and one that if they had the slightest shred of intellect, that they would kind of listen to and heed, because it's a very kind of empowering and important message there. But we'll see how they handle it, because I've got a feeling that they're probably going to gloss straight over the important parts of that.
You say it's no dignity, but there's no dignity in going out to work for somebody that's really, really rich. I'm talking Tesco's, right? You're going to go, what is the dignity in setting your alarm for 6 o'clock in the morning to get up to go and make their pockets even bigger and give them more money?
Very valid point. Didn't even think about that. Didn't even think about that. I'll make my argument for the undignification of regular generic work. Didn't even think about that. How dignified is it to set your alarm at 4, 5, 6 in the morning every day to go work a 12-hour shift at a job you hate just to make some billionaire richer whilst you're struggling to be able to afford the food that you're selling? Like, it's not very dignified.
You're sat there all day.
You're comparing
all
the
day
OnlyFans to a
Absolutely.
Even that, I'm not gonna lie. Even that has more
Absolutely.
dignity than what you do.
Please explain to me how getting up in the morning to line some rich
you're doing
man's
something
pocket.
positive for society, I guess.
Positive.
That's
£238,000 was my tax bill this year. Okay, I'm doing.
Here we go. Doing something positive for society. Okay, so what is more positive for society? I'm going to give you 2 examples here. Okay, I'll give you 2 examples here. The podcast host, whose entire existence comes down to spewing uneducated garbage to a echo chamber of equally uneducated, uninformed, and kind of misinformed young men, or a person who's found empowerment in sex work and sure produces porn, but produces extremely comedic porn that is very popular across a plethora of different platforms, and has consequently used that platform to create affordable housing schemes for young people, not only contributing back to society and back to the working class where she's from, but also contributing a massive amount of tax to the country. What was it, £100-something-thousand a year, sorry, £100-something-thousand a year, however much you just said, an obscene amount of money being contributed to the UK, obviously, infrastructure through taxation. But that's not even to mention the stuff that she does in the kind of philanthropic, that's the one, philanthropic aspect of her career. The fact that she contributes so much to the community. Like, again, every Christmas, I've known Rebecca for a couple of years now personally. I've known of her for longer, but I've worked with her for the last couple of years, last 2 or 3 years, and every Christmas you'll see that she buys a ridiculous amount of money's worth of presents for young parents that can't afford to buy their kids presents that Christmas. She'll put on her Instagram story and she'll ask people what they need for their kids, and if she can, she'll just buy it. And this is somebody who gives back a ridiculous amount to the community. What the fuck do these men give back? What the fuck do these men contribute? Like, what do they contribute to society other than sitting in kind of flannel boxes and a cheap white shirt in some tacky living room and spewing nonsense to one another? It's like, yeah, no. And even then, if we're talking about the societal contributions of regular jobs, sure, you're contributing to infrastructure, but again, all you're doing is lining the pockets of some billionaire somewhere. Like, that's not really contributing or helping anybody.
Positive for society by paying the lot of your wages.
Okay, I understand that, but what I'm saying is, if we went back to caveman times,
Which we're not in, yeah.
We're actually going to have some constructive.
If we went back to
production coming from
okay, so
people
why
that are
don't you
doing
go
those
out
jobs.
there and kill a cow instead of shopping at Tesco's? Let's go
But there
back
are
to
people
caveman
doing that.
time.
It's such a non-argument, such a non-comment. Like, is the problem? You've probably noticed this throughout this video. The moment she represents any kind of information that is educated and informed, the moment she gives any kind of factual response, they can't argue it. They can't oppose it. They've got nothing to counter that, because again, these are unintelligent, in this case, uneducated men. They are struggling to have some kind of composed or tangible response to her very legitimate argument. And so his response is to go, well, what about caveman? Hypothetically, and it goes back to that hypothetical, because the actual tangible conversation they're having, the legitimate reality-based conversation that they're having, he has nothing to argue. He has nothing to say. He knows that she's got a point there. There is nothing that he can use to counter it. And so, again, as he did for the height situation earlier on in the episode, his only response is to create a completely hypothetical and nonsensical, unrelated argument to then stick to, because that's the only way he can kind of create any kind of counter to what she's saying. But again, it's hypothetical. We're not in caveman times. We're not Neanderthals. We're not cavemen. We are fully developed, for the most part. Some of us are fully developed adults in the 21st fucking century. We do not live in caves anymore. We've developed past that point. Most of us, apparently not all, have developed past that point. And so, yeah, it's such a hypothetical non-argument to make.
People doing that, though.
But we're not in
you wouldn't be able to eat your burgers if there weren't people doing that. Whereas you getting your minge out on OnlyFans is
I'll
adding
tell you
no
something else. Sex,
adding nothing productive to our society. If
except
anything,
from the
it's
tax.
damaging. It's damaging our society.
Except from the tax bill, the £238,000 that I paid on the 31st of January this year.
I was talking about girls that are.
How is that
I was
not?
talking about if a girl was
How
earning
are the NHS nurses going to get paid without
Let's
these
try and
tax
not
bills?
talk over each other, by the way.
I was talking about the girls that are earning £1,000 a month. And comparing it to someone who works in
These
Tesco.
girls do not belong to society. These girls are their own girls. These girls do not have to contribute anything to society. A society that gives you what? Please explain to me what society
But
is
what are
giving
you?
you.
And what are these men contributing to society? And that's the thing. You don't have to contribute something to society. And you know, a lot of the time people will try to justify, you'll hear me try to justify it and go, well, this is what I actually do contribute, this is what she actually does contribute. But again, there's an expectation there that you should be contributing something. Why would you? Like, why should you? What is the expectation there? What is, when you go for your job interview at Tesco's or at Sainsbury's, or you do your boring office job, are you questioning what is that you individually contribute to society when you take that job offer? When you go for a job interview, before you turn up, do you go, actually, prospective boss, what would I be contributing to society if I got this job? And if they go, well, you're working at Tesco's, mate, you don't take the job, it's ridiculous. Nobody uses that as a benchmark by which to justify whether work is worth doing. Work is worth doing if A, you enjoy it, and B, you can make money doing something you enjoy. Those are the two things. If it's profitable and it's enjoyable, who gives a fuck what it contributes to society? These people are podcast hosts. They don't contribute shit to society.
Apart from the things you're doing with charity and that, which is really good, by the way.
Apart from all the contributions you're making, apart from the charitable philanthropic contributions you're making, what do you actually contribute? By the way, what do you actually contribute besides the contributions? It's like, you've seen what her contributions are, and you're choosing to ignore them because it doesn't fit the criteria for your argument.
What are you actually contributing to society with the work that you do?
The tax bill,
No, forget about the tax bill.
but that is what makes society run.
Some people are doing things
Why
like...
does
Again, forget about the tax bill, forget about the charity, forget about the contributions. But besides all the contributions you make, what contributions do you make? And it's like, again, it's completely overlooking the contributions that are there, acknowledging that they are there, going, well, apart from all the contributions that you make, what contributions do you make? And it's stripping away and kind of belittling the contributions that she does make to make her feel undermined and make it appear like she doesn't have any contributions to society. When again, there they are. Tax, the philanthropic work, the affordable housing stuff, gifting people stuff at Christmas time, all of this stuff that she does do that are massive contributions. Even the education side of stuff, doing the comedy, the comedy shows that she does, having the social media presence that she has, humanizing sex workers and showing people that we are actually people. We're not just objects, we're not just bodies, we're not just cocks and holes, we are actually people. That is a contribution to society.
My job has to contribute to
Let me
society.
finish.
My job is contributing to making sure that me and my kids are okay. I am not going to stand here, and work for the NHS. What do? They charge you £9,000 a year to go to university, and then you have to pay nurse registrar fees the whole time that you're at being a nurse, and then on top of that, the nurses are being paid a shit fucking wage. Fuck society.
Listen, hold on.
Because
Okay. Wait. So, bin men, doctors...
Right, I pay my council tax.
Hold on, wait. Bin men, doctors, nurses, Tesco workers are all contributing more than you are with your job.
I'm paying their
Because
wages.
You're not doing anything.
I'm
You're just
paying
getting
their
your minge out
wages.
and
I'm
men
paying
are...
what?
You're not doing anything, you're just getting your... Okay, so here we go. Here's one of the biggest arguments that we face as sex workers, especially female sex workers. Again, one of the problems with this industry is the fact that as a man, I don't get anywhere near the same level of stigma, flack, or shtick that female performers in my industry get. As a man, people look at what I do and they go, oh, amazing, oh, good for you, man, oh, yeah, and they give you a pat on the back. Unfortunately, it's not the same for women, evidently, but the idea that this is just getting your minge out, as he puts it, what a disgusting way of phrasing it, but it's not just that. If it was just that, then it still wouldn't be an argument. But this is, at least in this case, a woman who spends tens of thousands of pounds on each of her projects. Each of her projects are full-blown movie productions. They have extras, they have special effects, they have props and weapons and scripts and costumes and makeup what's the words, like special effects and physical visual effects, practical effects. And so it's like, it's not just getting your minge out, it's a full-blown movie production with a script and a full production team that gets turned into a finished product, which is fantastic. That's not to mention the fact that you've also got all of the marketing, the creating of the brands, the editing, the social media marketing, the production side of stuff. You're doing so many jobs in this job. The amount of time you spend just doing unpaid admin. I spent 8 hours a day just doing unpaid admin. I don't see a penny back from that. That's a basic work day. It's like almost a 9 to 5. Doing 8 hour shift every day just doing admin. I don't get paid a fucking penny from that. And I do that every single day. It's more than just getting your minge out, as these people put it. But even then, even if that was the job that it is, so what? It's a job. It's a job. You're paying for it. That's like saying, if getting your cock out or getting your cunt out isn't a job, then stacking shelves isn't a job. Being a cash register isn't a job. Well, AI can do half of that stuff already. We can automate most of that stuff already. Not that we should, obviously, but we can. Does that mean it's not a job? Does that mean it's not worth doing? Does that mean that your life is therefore null? It's forfeit. Your work is forfeit. It's worthless because this particular man doesn't view its contribution to society? Of course not. It's such a non-argument.
What you're doing.
And what are you doing? I do a podcast. I'm contributing to society. Fuck you.
You don't know what we do.
I'm paying tax. I'm
We
paying
all pay
tax.
tax.
I pay enough tax to pay 30 nurses' wages a year. Okay, I pay that tax.
And this is it. So when asked what her contribution is, again, she doesn't have to contribute anything. You don't have to contribute anything to society, especially a society that has fundamentally failed us as much as the UK UK kind of country government has. There's no real requirement to contribute anything back to that, because it does suck. But again, it's such a non-argument, because these are podcast hosts. What do they contribute to society? And she's argued, this is what I contribute. I've paid 30 nurses' wages this year. 30 nurses' wages have been paid this year by her as an individual. That's a massive contribution to society in and of itself, by itself, a standalone contribution, not to mention all the other stuff.
Corporation.
MISA, not once have any of these people responded with any kind of justification. Not once have these people gone, oh, well, this is what I contribute. Notice how they've all asked what she contributes, but none have answered at all. None have given any kind of justification for their own contributions.
Tax, dividend tax, personal tax. So you won't understand any of this, you see. But carry
Why
on.
wouldn't we?
No, but don't you think it's... Okay, let's move on from that. Don't you think it's a bit of a waste? You're giving the UK government so much money. Like, they're just
Do
throwing
you
it
think
all away.
you think I want to give the UK
Why don't you
government?
leave?
Why don't I leave
You got
what?
the money. Why don't you leave the
Because
UK?
I've got children.
Yeah, take them.
I
They
don't
don't
want
want to be
to.
here.
They do want to be here. I've already asked this. We
It's
already
because
went
they don't know
for.
where else they want to.
They've travelled.
I love that they're assuming to know more about what her kids want than she does. And again, it's that insistent assumption that they must be right. That insistent assumption that their opinion is somehow worth more than hers just because they're dudes. Like, they're presuming that they know more about her children's preferences than she does. It's ridiculous.
I took them out of school for it was a 6-week holidays, and we got a motorhome, and we drove from from Chesterfield to Cornwall, back up to the Lake District in 6 weeks. And I asked them...
Not like the
UK,
Maldives
mate.
or...
Wait, they've seen Cornwall in the Lake District.
Let me finish.
And again, the moment she tries to actually respond, they're just talking over her again.
They've obviously been other places, but the plan was, if they liked the motorhome...
like other countries.
You know what, I'm going to get off now. You are the most disrespectful people I've ever met.
What? We was only joking.
No, trust me, you lot are getting fucking rich as shit now.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Hey, goodbye.
And again, I know Rebecca pretty fucking well. It takes a lot to get under her skin. This is somebody who talks very publicly about some of the most embarrassing elements and aspects of her life. There's somebody who is, and she won't mind me saying this, who is publicly thrown up on herself during a live comedy stand-up show. This is not somebody who gets embarrassed easily. This is not somebody who is easy to humiliate, or certainly not somebody who's easy to upset. She's got incredibly thick skin of this stuff. Or at the very least, she does an incredibly good job of masking when something does get to her. So the fact that she's walked off of this, it goes to show just how much they are badgering her. And who knows how much this has been spliced and edited and cut. Who knows, it's only a 24 or 26 minute episode. From what I've seen, their episodes tend to be about twice that length. Obviously, she walked off early, but how much they've cut and cropped, who knows? But at the end of the day, regardless, they've invited her on here to ask her stuff, and instead of giving her the opportunity to respond, they have spoken over her and offered no actual feasible argument back for any of the points that have been raised, which is unfortunate, but it's not to be unexpected with these podcasts. There's unfortunately a trend in the kind of podcast scene of having podcasts where thick men invite female sex workers, or invite hosts, co-hosts onto the show, guests onto the show, ask them questions, but then lack the basic kind of intellect to actually understand the answers to those questions. And so it's literally just a baiting game, just baiting these guests to try and get them to say something that they can laugh at and mock. And again, quite often the guests will have very feasible, tangible, good intellectual answers to those questions, but those answers don't get any notice. They don't get analysed. They don't get addressed. They just get overlooked, because that's not the point in the podcast. The point of the podcast isn't to get useful information, isn't to get entertaining information. It's to poke fun at somebody and upset them and get them to act irrationally, because that makes for good clicks, that makes for good videos, makes for good content. So again, it's unfortunately a trend within the podcast scene. That you'll see more and more of these. And again, this is something that is nothing new. And no doubt there'll be plenty more of these podcasts that we will check out. But I wanted to look at this one just because obviously I know Rebecca personally, and I wanted to have a little look at how the podcast went. It's a shame because these podcasts have the potential to give platforms to people who have something to say, who have some useful information and insight to share with people. It's an opportunity to give people such as Rebecca another platform where they can talk about what they've done to get out of the living situation that they're in and to better themselves, and have a real positive effect on the way in which people kind of view this industry. But unfortunately, these podcasts aren't around for that. That isn't their purpose. Their purpose is just to poke fun, humiliate, and get cheap, easy clicks out of people. And it's unfortunate. The problem is, whereas previously these kind of narrow-minded, ignorant men wouldn't have necessarily had an audience to speak to, they wouldn't have been taken seriously, now thanks to podcasts such as this podcast, they have a platform whereby they can preach to an echo chamber of similarly kind of narrow-minded, ignorant men. And it's ridiculous because it just perpetuates those ignorant ideas, those malinformed, misinformed ideas. And it's ridiculous because the problem is, these people, they are parasitic to the very people that they profess are degrading themselves. Men like this, they rely on sex workers. They rely on female sex workers such as Rebecca for their content. In fact, there's information about the fact that some of these men, one of these guys, even has done stuff on OnlyFans in the past, and so he has participated in sex work. He's parasitic to the industry because he's now out here kind of using his platform to belittle these people and profit from belittling these people, despite the fact that he's profiting from them. And the unfortunate thing is, they will never listen to a female voice. Regardless of how educated that female voice is, regardless of how informed or how clued in that female voice is, they will not listen to them, ever, because they are a woman. And I've seen it for years in the education side of the industry that I participate in the workshops that I teach, in the kind of education sphere that I work in. You see it all the time, where I might say the exact same thing as my fellow female educators. I might say the exact same thing as the other educators in the group. I might repeat her words word for word, but the men in the audience won't listen to them until I've said them, or they'll be more clued in when I say it. I've done workshops before. So a close friend of mine, Alice Lovegood, who I've mentioned previously, the Better Sex Academy, Better Sex blog, incredible educator, very informed, far more qualified and informed than I am in many regards. And we will both teach workshops at the same events, and I will sometimes see how men will respond to her workshop versus how they will respond to mine. And you can see that even though we might be saying the same thing, even though she might be far more informed than I am, I might be repeating what she's saying, they won't listen until I've said it. And it's frustrating because at the end of the day, education is education, information is information. Shouldn't matter where the fuck you're listening to it from, as long as it's from an informed place and it's accurate, you should listen to it. But these guys never will, because they just simply do not respect women. They don't respect women. And you can see that in the way in which they act. You can see that in the way in which they interact with women on their shows, or in the way in which they interact with women, the kind of online sphere, in comments, in the way they respond to people. It's important for men like myself to speak up about this, because some men will only listen to it from a male voice. At the end of the day, it's a problem that affects fucking all of us. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, it affects all of us. I'll tell you how it affects me personally. Regardless of the fact that Rebecca is my friend, regardless of the fact that I've seen other women that I'm close to being treated this way, their disrespect to her as a result of her job is a disrespect to her job. We have the same job, and therefore it's a disrespect to me. They are undermining her and belittling her because they view her as being less worthy of respect because she does sex work. Which therefore means that they view me as being less worthy of respect because I do sex work. Now, whether they voice that to me the same way as they would to her, I doubt it. Because again, these people treat men differently to how they treat women. But the fact that they have those opinions, that then personally affects me. And people having those opinions of sex workers makes sex work more dangerous. It makes sex work more damaging. It makes it more difficult. And so, of course, it affects me. It affects everybody. It's not just an issue for women. It's an issue for all of us. And it's very frustrating to see. But unfortunately, that is the world that we live in. We have these ignorant, parasitic people who now unfortunately have a platform to preach from. But I guess that makes it our responsibility to do the opposite and to preach education and to preach kind of being informed, being clued in, understanding consent and boundaries and respecting people and calling out negative behaviour when we see it, because at the end of the day, that's the only way we're going to change it. Now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of format. I'm going to be doing more videos like this, kind of commentary videos talking about and analysing, whether it be podcasts or videos associated with the adult film industry and with sex and psychology in general. I think it's a good format for me to kind of share my insights, my experiences within the industry, within the education sphere, and kind of give people a educated, informed analysis of some of the stuff that I think a lot of people are unfortunately consuming. Again, it's frustrating that a lot of the time this message isn't heard when it comes from the women that are voicing their experiences. It's frustrating that sometimes it takes a dude talking about this stuff for some people to listen, but I'd rather that than nothing. At the end of the day, I am just explaining the way in which I've witnessed people being treated. That is never going to compare to the kind of usefulness, the insight offered by people who have lived those experiences. So definitely go listen to the people that are being talked to in this video, listen to Rebecca Goodwin's kind of her take on the situation, because she was the person that lived it, she was the person that experienced that. Her experiences are going to be far more useful and far more insightful than me just watching it and witnessing it. So please go have a look at her content and her kind of experience of the whole thing, because it's definitely going to be far more relevant. It's definitely going to have far more impact. And that goes for all of these things. Again, with all of this behaviour, the lack of respect, the way in which people, both within this industry and to be fair, women as a whole, are treated by these podcasts. It's good to hear it coming from me. It's better to hear it from them. Okay, because again, my analysis of witnessing something is never going to be as in-depth as a lived experience of the people that were there. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more stuff like it, let me know, drop me a message, drop me a comment down below, and hopefully we can analyse some slightly more cheerful stuff in the future. If there's any videos you'd like to see me cover, whether it be a video like this, analysing some other content, or whether it be a kind of dedicated psychology video to a specific kink or fetish, please let me know, comment it down below, and I'll get on making those videos. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and much love.